UFC Fight Night Vegas 42, Holloway versus Rodriguez is now in the rearview mirror. It's time to start looking forwards. This is every single fight to make after UFC Vegas 42. I've got all of the key fighters from that card on the screen right now. Some winners, some losers, mostly winners because there aren't many big names on the card. And I'm going to break down what's next for all of them. You may notice there is an empty square next to every single one of them, and that's where their next opponent is going to go, who I have hidden around the perimeter of the screen and will place where they belong one by one as the video goes on. Let's start straight away with the main event. Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez. Fight of the year contender for sure. One of the best fights I've seen in a very long time. Max Holloway, Yair Rodriguez had absolute war for 5 rounds. Great performance by both of them, but Max Holloway got the job done and edged out the rounds that he needed to, used his grappling where he needed to as well to win certain rounds for himself. Max Holloway definitely got the job done, and I think next for Max Holloway is the big question now. I see a lot of people asking, maybe he should take on Conor McGregor, maybe he should move up to 155 pounds. I thought unanimously before this fight started between Holloway and Rodriguez, the next guy was for Alexander Volkanovski, but I feel like now because McGregor paced back and forth like a madman in front of his TV, it's now like I don't want anything to change. Let's keep with the game plan here. Max Holloway versus Alexander Volkanovski free, preferably at the February co-main event pay-per-view card. Israel Adesanya, Robert Whittaker. Volkanovski versus Holloway free. If Holloway can't turn around that quickly, we can do it on the March card. Maybe do Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards 2 as the main event of the March card, and the co-main event could be Max Holloway, Volkanovski free. I need to see that fight again. These are the two best fighters in the world. But I feel like all of the pundits and media personalities are talking about, well, what about Holloway versus McGregor? Well, what about Holloway up at 155 pounds now? What can we really do with him right now? This is one of the few examples because of how close the second fight was and how certain Holloway fans just refuse to accept the result that Volkanovski won, where we can actually have a trilogy despite Volkanovski winning the first 2 fights. We need to make that fight again, and more importantly, it makes the fight really, really interesting. Really big fight for the featherweight division. Huge matchup as well. It needs to happen right now because you've got a bunch of contenders right now at featherweight who are winning some fights like Giga Chikadze, but Giga Chikadze was ranked number 7, number 6, calling for a title shot. You want these guys to really make their way into the top 3, top 5 at least of the division before you start giving them title shots. You can do Arnold Allen versus the Korean Zombie. If Chikadze beats Qatar, you could do Chikadze versus Zabit for the next title shot. And that leads us to another featherweight fight that needs to be made. Yair Rodriguez, the loser. He's going to need a lot of time off. Someone else who needs a lot of time off and is having a lot of time off right now is Brian Ortega. This is self-explanatory in my opinion. You could even do this at some point in the midway point of next year in Mexico. If it's available at that time, if we've recovered from the situation around the world and we can have arenas in different parts of the world. I know they're planning a London card in March. If we can somehow do like a Mexico City fight card with Yair Rodriguez versus Brian Ortega in the main event for 5 rounds, that just makes ultimate sense. And I don't see why that wouldn't be possible. So, Yair Rodriguez, Brian Ortega, they both need time off. I think they should look to come back around April maybe of next year. At earliest, maybe May. Ortega took a lot of damage. Yair took damage, but it wasn't like as much concussive damage. Like, he did get a beating, don't get me wrong, but it's more like his foot's going to have to recover. Cuts over his eye and stuff like that. Ortega took like a brain trauma type of damage, so I want to see both of them around April next year. Fight Night New Mexico, or New whatever it is. Fight Night Mexico City, and we can make that fight happen. Great matchup, though, in the featherweight division. Yair versus Ortega. And I think they're very evenly matched, and it'll be an interesting matchup. Moving on to another fight on the card. Marcos Rodrigo de Lima got his win over Ben Rothwell. It was a really early stoppage, but he probably was going to win anyway, and he showed that he was at least a better fighter in the short moments that we got to see that fight. So next for Marcos Rodrigo de Lima is Walt Harris. Don't really know why, but let's give Walt Harris someone who's at least going to throw down in the center of the cage with him. I feel like that'd be the most Walt Harris-friendly matchup there could be. If you want to see Walt Harris succeed, they're going to give him one more fight. I don't like the idea of giving him someone in the rankings because he's on that losing streak that he's on. So let's give him someone just outside the rankings who's right there, I believe top 20 right now in Marcos Rodrigo de Lima. And let's do Walt Harris versus him. Great matchup. Marcos throws down in the center of the cage with big power. Walt Harris does the same thing. It's not like you're giving him a guy who's going to give him a bunch of weird looks on the outside and flick it in with front kicks like Alexander Volkov. It's a great matchup for him, so I think they could make that next. Moving on, Felicia Spencer in the featherweight division. God, this one took hours. Honestly, this next opponent, it took me hours to figure this out. I mean, I was contemplating this up until the early hours of yesterday morning, or this morning even, because I haven't even slept thinking about what's next for her. Listing through the women's featherweight fighters, just like, not her, pros and cons of these 50 versus that 50. All right, we've processed and eliminated those. All right, now we're going to go into this category of the female featherweight division. All right, let's break it down to the top 30 of the women's featherweight division. I ended up with a result of Aspen Ladd, because she's one of 4 of them. And she can't fight Holly Holm. So, Aspen Ladd, because she's one of 4 of them. They're going to do Norma Dumont versus Holly Holm. So, just fucking do this as well, I guess. Moving on. Khaos Williams. Big win in the 3rd round by KO against a great name as well, Miguel Beza. People don't understand where that puts Khaos Williams. I think he's 1 fight away from a ranked opponent. I was talking yesterday about getting him a ranked opponent. I think he's 1 fight away, and one winnable fight that would be a great matchup for him would be Nico Price. Just outside the rankings in the welterweight division, coming off a win right now against Alex Oliveira, and more importantly, looked bad in that fight against Alex Oliveira. Very winnable matchup for Khaos Williams, and ideally, you want Khaos Williams in the rankings of the welterweight division. You want him to move forward and get towards the top because he's very marketable. His name is Khaos, and we need to see this matchup. Khaos Williams, Nico Price. It's a big test for a contender in the welterweight division. You could argue Miguel Beza is better than Nico Price. I reckon he probably is. But I think Nico Price plays into the game of Khaos Williams. He'll throw down, he'll scrap, he'll get wild out there. And he could maybe pose some problems for Khaos Williams. I reckon Khaos Williams will beat him because Nico Price looked terrible in his last fight against Oliveira. But that's a great matchup to make in the welterweight division, keeping both guys busy. Turn them right back around. Khaos Williams, he took some calf kick damage, but not too much. March next year. Early on, Khaos Williams, Nico Price, winner gets a shot against a ranked opponent for sure. Moving on, Song Yadong got a big win against Julio Arce. Big head kick to a follow-up TKO. And I think he needs to move on and take on a name like Marlon Moraes. Now, here's why. Yadong's on a 2-fight win streak. If I'm not mistaken, he beat Casey Kenny, Julio Arce. 2 great names. He's number 15. I think he'll now move up to number 14 at least, or number 13. He should move up above Cody Stamann. He went to a draw with him, and since then he's won a bunch of fights against good competition. So, Song Yadong, number 14. Marlon Moraes, I believe, number 9 in the UFC rankings. Let's make that fight. Song Yadong, Marlon Moraes. More importantly, I know Marlon Moraes might not want to take that fight, and he's coming off a loss right now, and it doesn't really make much sense. But you can sort of organize it like, hey, Marlon, like you go into the meeting room with Marlon Moraes and you say, hey, Marlon, I'm sorry, man. I'm so sorry. We're going to have to let you go. And he's like, no, man, please, man, anything, man. One more chance, man. I fight anybody, man. And then you say, all right, well, I'm putting my neck on the line for you here, but I'll give you Song Yadong. And that's the only option. And then he'll look at the Song Yadong fight like, oh, yeah, man, I keep my job, man. Go out there, big fight, you know. And then you can have a great fight between Song Yadong and Marlon Moraes. Great matchup in the bantamweight division. Fireworks. And when you think about it, for Marlon Moraes coming off all these losses against Marab, who's predominantly a grappler that he has to worry about the takedowns with, Song Yadong, stand-up guy. Not going to shoot takedowns. Going to stand up and trade with you. Big explosive shots in the first round. That's what Moraes really wants. So I think that'd be a great matchup. Feature fight of a fight night card, maybe on the headliner of the prelims of a pay-per-view or somewhere on the prelims of a pay-per-view. Good matchup in the bantamweight division. Moving on to another fight. Yoel Alvarez beat Thiago Moises, demolished him in the first round. I want him to stay at lightweight, but stay active, because I feel like his long layoffs are hurting his weight cuts. If you stay active, your body's going to be more used to that process. You're not going to get as big out of camp, so you're going to not really have as much time out of camp in general, so you're going to stay in shape. Keep your weight down. Get right back in there. You took 0 damage against Thiago Moises. Enjoy your Christmas, but then get right back in there February next year against a person such as Guram Kutateledze. This is the matchup I need to see right now in the lightweight division. Guram has been trying to get opponents. I believe Don Madge he was signed against at one point. Let's give Guram Kutateledze versus Yoel Alvarez. Winner of that one's got to be ranked number 15, maybe. I mean, maybe Yoel Alvarez is ranked now, but I doubt it because Moises was barely number 15. Maybe someone else is going to take that position above him, but Yoel Alvarez is going to be right outside the rankings. Guram Kutateledze, I believe, is top 20, top 25 right now, but he hasn't been active. He needs a matchup. Yoel Alvarez, Guram, winner gets ranked at number 15, and the winner of that one gets like a top 10 opponent or someone on the slide coming out of the top 5. We'll see how it goes, but that's a great matchup in my opinion in the lightweight division. 2 dangerous up-and-comers. I mean, I know I don't think Guram Kutateledze beat Mateusz Gamrot, but making it as close as he did is equally as impressive and shows that he's at least there with Mateusz Gamrot, equal to him maybe. Yoel Alvarez, Guram Kutateladze. Phenomenal matchup in the lightweight division. I don't even have to describe this. If you know, you know. This is a fucking fight right now at lightweight. Winner moves on and gets a top opponent afterwards. But that'll really tell us who's the next big prospect coming up in the lightweight division. Moving on to another matchup. Sean Woodson beat Colin Anglin with a great performance. First round TKO. Took no damage whatsoever. Get right back in there. You're not a young guy. Someone else who isn't a young guy at featherweight right now who still needs to climb up the division. Nate Landwehr. Nate the Train! Clarksville! Steiner! Great matchup. Looking forward to this one. I feel like I'm from Clarksville sometimes when Nate the Train fights, and I need to see him fight again. So, Sean Woodson, Nate the Train, perfect matchup in the featherweight division. Don't need to say any more. Perfect. The winner of that one maybe gets a ranked opponent or someone just outside the rankings. Maybe the winner of this one gets their chance against Andre Fili. You know, that reason, that like seasonal contender that takes on Andre Fili. I feel like it happens every 6 months or so. Whenever Andre Fili fights, it's against the next guy coming up that's going to make some noise in the featherweight division. Can he stop them or does he let them pass? I think the winner of this one should get Andre Fili if Fili wins a fight in the meantime. That'll be a great matchup in the featherweight division. And it'll be a great stylistic matchup as well. Both guys like to keep it standing. Nate the Train likes to keep it standing. He doesn't like KO power, but Sean Woodson doesn't have much KO power, so I think it would end up being an absolute scrap for 3 rounds. Great matchup. Sean Woodson, Nate the Train, make it happen immediately, and that leaves us with the last guy, Da Un Young. Amazing performance from Da Un Young. Really amazing performance against Kennedy Nzechukwu, because, I mean, Nzechukwu, like, he's beaten a lot of good guys. I know he didn't look good out there against Da Un Young, and he did get KO'd reasonably early. But still, he finished him in the first round. I rewatched it today. He landed some pretty clean shots before those elbows as well. And those elbows were very, very vicious. Same with Yoel Alvarez. There was a kind of theme on that card with Yair Rodriguez in the main event as well. But Da Un Young, amazing performance against Kennedy Nzechukwu. He needs to move on up the light heavyweight division. I believe he should be ranked number 15 now. Ion Cutelaba does have some wins here and there, but the consistency of Da Un Young, other than the Sam Alvey fight where he fought to a draw, he's on a 14-fight win streak. He hasn't lost in 14 fights, technically. He does have that one draw, though. And he has beat really good opponents recently. William Knight, dangerous fucking guy. Beats him, moves on. Just beat Kennedy Nzechukwu. These are dangerous big guys for the light heavyweight division with a lot of power. And Da Un Young's getting it done. He needs a ranked opponent, and I think it should be Ryan Spann. Coming off a loss right now in his last fight against Anthony Smith in the main event. I think you could make this like a co-main event of a fight night. A feature fight of a fight night maybe is more appropriate for the card. Da Un Young, Ryan Spann. Da Un Young's going to be number 15. Ryan Spann's number 12. He's coming off a loss, I understand, but you've got to get this movement going in the rankings. Plus, Da Un Young's very young, and we only got time for certain prospects. So Ryan Spann, Da Un Young, only one prospect can remain in the light heavyweight division. It's a great matchup as well. Both guys are going to want to keep it standing, and I think it would be a firefight in the first round and would lead to a great result. And that would move Da Un Young up the rankings, which he really deserves right now because he's on a bit of a win streak, and he's beat really solid competition in all honesty. So, Da Un Young, Ryan Spann, and that's all the matchups to be made after UFC Vegas 42. Holloway Volkanovski 3. I'm seeing a lot of like titles of YouTube videos from like MMA channels saying, what's next for Holloway? Is McGregor next for Holloway? And well, he has the choice now and he wants someone to call him out now. No. You're the top contender. Don't fucking hold up featherweight. Let's get this fucking going. This is perfect. The stars had to align for Holloway to get back to this moment. And I feel like the ESPN analysts are like, well, now what? Well, we can't do the Volkanovski. Like, it feels like the Volkanovski fight isn't even desired by the sport right now. And that's weird, because I was like fingers crossed the whole fucking time that Holloway wouldn't get beaten by one of these contenders. And now he's finally done it. The planets have aligned, even through a tough matchup with Yair Rodriguez. He's come out the other side. He's gone down the Robert Whittaker pathway. Let's make the fucking title fight. And obviously Yair Rodriguez versus Brian Ortega just fucking sells itself. It's a great fight. So, those are the fights to make. I just want that to be made now. Yoel Alvarez, Guram Kutateladze. That's just such a great high-level matchup. If Yoel Alvarez just whoops Guram, or if Guram can, like, tame Yoel Alvarez and beat him, they prove, like, a fucking solid level. And I'll be picking them until, like, the top 5 of the lightweight division, for sure. Great matchup there. And obviously, Nate the Train is always fun to watch. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.